You're looking at a 1965 Zenith Marseille television console, color television console from 1965. I just acquired this from a collector that lives in Milwaukee. I looked at this set. It was an eBay sale. He's run it in several times and dropped the price, and I finally thought, well, it's a worthy set to add to the collection. I don't collect televisions. I don't. I have several of them, but I only collect a piece that has what I call a significant place and time, significant technological, historical significance, I should say. And of course, something related to my past as well, because I was born in '47, so I was brought up with television. Now, it's fun sometimes to have stuff like this to go through the forensics of figuring out where this set was. It was an estate sale purchase originally from a man down in Chicago who also collects televisions. He gave this to a fellow collector up in Milwaukee, and now I have it. Now it's touted as a high fidelity set. It has bass and treble controls down here, and it has two 6x9 speakers, I think they are, and up here is a treble speaker. So it's as hi-fi as television broadcasting was of the time. Now in 1965, there was no such thing as home video. The only time you watch movies on television is when one of the local or network channels broadcasted a movie. You didn't have home video. This was strictly an antenna television. In '65, there wasn't really any cable, at least any cable that I knew of. This is a Space Command set. Here's the microphone for the Space Command. Space Command works with a tuning fork type style of transmission. I don't have the remote, but there are plenty of those available. I could get one. This set works. I saw it working before I put the blanket on it, put the dollies on it, and took it away. It works. The picture's a little bit washed out. It's not super bright. I'll probably post a section of it working. But it's not real bright. The tube has got wear on it. In 1965, people who bought television like this is what would be called a middle of the road or close to high-end, maybe high-end television. Quite a big purchase for someone in 1965. The controls, vertical hold, horizontal hold, color adjustment controls are all down below. Now why I bought this set was I had a 1965 RCA New Vista color. I was working then, earning my own money, and my parents would have never bought an expensive color TV. They weren't really well off financially, and I bought one. And in 1965, color was still not real common, color broadcasts, especially with ABC and CBS. NBC, of course, being RCA, had most of the color programming. So I remember when I bought my set that I used to just play around with it, tuning around to the channels I could get just to see what was coming in color. So people who bought TV sets, say in 1953, color TV sets, they had to wait until NBC was broadcasting color shows because the other stations rarely ever, if ever, transmitted color until 1965. And in 1965, that's when the balance changed. It was heavily balanced toward black and white transmissions, but color started to become heavier and heavier until by the time you got into the 70s, original original television programming was almost always in color on all the networks. Black and white TV sets were rarely being sold far less. Now in 1965, we went from 1950s modern decor into various home schemes of decor, much different from the blonde oak and blonde furniture and the thin, narrow couches of the 50s. One of the decor popularities of the 60s was French provincial, and that's what this is. This is a Marseille TV, and it's very French provincial in its design. The cabinet is painted, and it's gold trimmed. There's gold in the trim, and it's painted very typical French provincial. Now, one of the things that discourages me a little bit is this vinyl decal that somebody put on top. That's not original, obviously. The top would have been just like the sides. It would have been painted in that color, kind of a cream, almost gold color paint, to offset the actual gold edges that they put on this. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, it's fun to come up with the forensics of where this has been and what's been done to it. Presumably, this was originally an estate find. You can see that there's a lighter spot here. That's there's some indications that this was in a home where people smoked. Perhaps not very heavily, but they smoked. Not much more I can glean from this. I would like to take this decal off. I'm assuming that the reason they put it on is because it's a painted console, and the top was probably, the paint was cracked or crackled. It may have been stained or chipped. So they put this vinyl decal over that to kind of cover that over, instead of maybe just putting a large doily over it. They put this vinyl decal. But I'm debating on whether I'm going to use a heat gun and take that off. And then of course I don't know what I'm going to find underneath. In the act of pulling it off, I could literally be pulling pieces of the paint off. That means I'd have to strip the top of it and repaint it. And I don't know that I could exactly match that color. I can try. And I'd have to spray it. I'd have to spray paint it, because you can't brush that, get a nice smooth coat with a brush. So I'd have to spray paint it, just the top. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But like I say, in the mid-1960s, this was a very popular decor piece, French provincial. A fairly middle-class family would have bought this and enjoyed this television. And as I said earlier, even in 1965, color TV was, you found more black and white shows on television than color. You had to look for the color broadcast, mostly on NBC, but the other networks were starting to transmit more and more color in the 60s, and that's when color began to outweigh black and white. Now, one other thing I want to point out is the rectangular tube. There's I'm hoping that I've got the link to the YouTube ad that somebody posted on this very model of television. Zenith was touting that the screen was more like a movie screen, prior to 1965, color television CRTs or picture tubes were round. This one, of course, is rectangular, and they wanted to make it more like what they called a movie screen. And so this was the first year, 1965, that color televisions were available with rectangular screens, and my first color TV, the RCA New Vista color in 1965, was also a rectangular screen. I'm going to pull the back off so we can see what the innards of this set looks like. But looking at the back, you can see it's a typical television from the 60s. There's a way to skip unused channels with your Space Command remote so that it won't stop at those. You can push the button and it'll the channel changer will index to the next usable channel. There's instructions here on how to do that. Let's pull this back off and just see what we have. Pretty typical. If you watch that ad, the ad that the other YouTube poster posted on this particular model set, the 1965 Zenith console television ad, Zenith was bragging about that they made no shortcuts when they built this chassis. It was all hand wired, and it was all hand wired chassis. Pretty nice, actually. And like I say, it is amazing that that this thing actually still works. I'm not real sure what's under here. I have a feeling it has something to do with the remote control. I'll have to explore. Here's a knob that someone left. A loose control knob. Probably goes in the front panel somewhere. The three speakers, at least the 6x9s, they don't have impressive magnets on them, but you know, it's television sound, really. It's as high fidelity as television could be in the day, which wasn't real hi-fi. It was okay, but it was never really hi-fi television. Convergence panel. This set looks pretty untouched. Very original. I don't know how good the picture tube is, but I'm assuming that the picture tube is probably far from real good. It would be nice to find a new old stock replacement, but would I be able to find that? I don't know. Been a long time since I changed a picture tube in a TV set. Anyways, I'll see if I can get this thing working, and then I'll maybe post a short video or add a short clip to this of this set actually operating. Okay, the tube isn't bad. There is definitely a problem with the AGC circuit. It's drifting in and out. See how the picture improves. When it changes from scene to scene, it washes out. More than likely it's going to need capacitors, all the capacitors replaced. That's probably one thing. Electrolytics in the power supply may be bad. But the picture tube is fairly decent. It's not bad. So this is a project. Another one of my projects added to the list. But the thing actually does work. it just does not work well.